Hi, I'm Kim Hegwood, and today we're going to talk about when the diagnosis is dementia, the 3 action steps you should take right now. A lot of times when you think there's a potential for diagnosis or you actually have a medical doctor has given you a diagnosis of dementia, one of the first things you always talk about is, what should I do? It's really important to make sure that you understand the types of things that you should be doing. And so we talk to you about all of this stuff because as elder law attorneys, this is what we do. And since I started that particular conversation, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about what elder law is, because a lot of people don't know. We like to think that elder law is estate planning on steroids. It's more than a death and distribution plan. It's planning for incapacity, death, and inheritance. It's also a whole lot about balancing the needs of the ill spouse with the healthy spouse, because it's not very often that both of them need care. So it's really important to make sure that we're doing all the things that we need to do, that both spouses have access to healthcare benefits, either from VA, Medicare, Medicaid, and that the survivor, the spouse that's at home that doesn't need care, has plenty of funds and income so that their quality of life is not hampered by the spouse that may need a lot more care. One of the first things we talk to clients about is medical concerns. We want to make sure that you get a good diagnosis. So we want you to meet with a specialist such as a neurologist. It's very important to have an early and accurate diagnosis of dementia because there's lots of different types of dementia. So knowing what type of dementia you have enables you to get a good medical plan in place. It also helps you with your long-term care plan to know what type of dementia you have. So it's really important that you get that clarification and get that accurate diagnosis. Second thing we want to talk to you about is your legal concerns, and we're going to go into a lot more about that. We want you to meet with an elder law firm, and this is us, just so you know. And we assist clients preparing for life with dementia, Alzheimer's, and all of the other dementia-related diagnoses, because really planning for long-term care is a huge passion of mine. It's one of our specialties, and we love what we do. So you couldn't ask for a better group of people to hang out with as you start to decline. And so it's really important that you have really good legal documents in place. And the 2 that are the most essential when it comes to long-term care planning are power of attorneys. Your medical power of attorney is that document that says who's going to take care, who's going to make medical decisions for me if I cannot. And we want that to have in place because maybe it's somebody that by law would be the person to make those decisions, but you don't want them to make decisions. So if you don't put the right people in place, the law is going to decide for you who gets to make those medical decisions. It's really important as well to have a very good financial power of attorney. And when you're planning for disability, it's important to plan for having a very good and powerful power of attorneys. And so when we're talking about disability planning, we want to make sure that you've got powerful powers of attorney, just like we talked about, gifting consistent with your estate planning goals. So if you need to gift to qualify for government benefits, we want to make sure that the gifting occurs to the people you want it to have. Ability to hire family members or agents to provide care. Very important to make sure that you do this correctly because Medicaid has some very strict requirements on how that looks and what kind of documents need to be in place to document this. Otherwise, it won't work. And then you'll get disqualified and be unable to get Medicaid for long-term care. You want the power to create and amend trust. And you want to make sure, and we want to make sure that the client's distribution wishes are carried out, even if they have a disability and needing long-term care. Your powerful power of attorneys, that unlimited gifting is the key to long-term care. Because if I can gift, then I can do lots of things. It gives you more options, the ability to do better planning. And what it does is it gives you some more options in a crisis. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that a little later in the presentation. We also want your financial power of attorney to have legitimate Medicaid powers. Even if you don't use Medicaid for your long-term care, you never know, you may need it. So we want to make sure that your plan works just in case. So you want to have that power to create and fund irrevocable trust. You want to have the power to transfer real estate to spouse or a caregiver child. The caregiver child has to have taken care of you for 2 years prior to you going into the nursing home to qualify for that exemption. We want the power to transfer assets to a disabled child or a trust for a disabled child or even a grandchild. And so there's always the possibility of leaving money to somebody who truly needs it and still qualify for government long-term care benefits. One of the things about having powerful powers of attorneys is it avoids guardianship. Guardianship is expensive. Attorneys make a lot of money off of guardianship because everything you need to do, you have to ask the court permission. So it's very expensive. It's an unnecessary process if you have those 2 documents in place. I'd want you to do that and not spend the money on having the court control your and your family's life and how you spend your money and who you spend your money on. That power of attorney also should give the ability to force someone to take your power of attorney if necessary, and give the ability for that client that's potentially heading to long-term care, the ability to protect their spouse or children. So it's really important to have those good power of attorneys because it can do so much for you, especially when it comes to planning for long-term care. And it also is really good to have if you're in crisis mode as well. So your power of attorney has to have an agent and a successor agent. And if you've got that third person, we want you to have that person as well. You can have them effective immediately or upon incapacity. If you trust the person that's your agent, we really want to encourage you to do it effective immediately. Otherwise, you have to get a doctor to put in writing that you're unable to handle your finances before that power of attorney can be used. Have you ever had a doctor or try to get a doctor to put something in writing? It's not an easy thing to do. So it's really important to make sure that you do everything you can to put things in place. You want to make sure that the powers it has, you can do it either general or specific. We tend to use the statutory form. It's a little shorter, and then we add all of our extra stuff that you need coming from an elder law attorney. You want to make sure you have all the bells and whistles that go with it. The ability to create trust, to gift, and more specifically, the ability to do self-dealing. Because a lot of your agents are your children. We want them to have the ability to gift money to themselves in order to do something for you. So it's very important that you put all those things in place and that it works. The third thing is your financial and tax concerns. You want a plan that you put together that works for you and works for your family. And the professionals should be working together. So you ask, what professionals should be working together? You should have an excellent elder law attorney. You should have a good financial advisor and your CPA. And some people don't have all 3, but you want to make sure that you have a good CPA and a good elder law attorney at a minimum if you don't have your own financial advisor. It's very important that these people work together. So we want to work with your financial advisor and your CPA because they're a wealth of information. And so they know a lot of things about you because they've been with you for a long time. And so they're a very good resource, and they have lots of good ideas that will benefit you in the long run. We want to be able to implement strategies to protect your nest egg. So if you have a spouse at home, a disabled child or grandchild, we want to make sure that we can do the things in place that take care of you for long-term care, still give you the ability to take care of those family members that you love. So what's a dementia-friendly law firm? So we're talking about dementia. What's a dementia-friendly law firm? In our office, it's the ability to really provide excellent legal services for people who've been diagnosed with a dementia-related illness. Also in our office, part of our dementia planning is helping you, your loved ones, maybe help you find placement, making sure that you're getting all the benefits that you need, all those things that come with planning for long-term care. And so we have a whole program specifically geared for dementia clients and their families. A lot of people come into my office and say, I'm never going to a nursing home. And you may not. But when you're planning for long-term care, we're assuming that you're going to go to that nursing home, not by choice, but by necessity. So we want to make sure that that we have a plan that covers that contingency. We want you to stay at home as long as possible. And you can do that as long as you have good caregivers at home. You want to make sure that that if you need extra help, that you get some home help that can come in and take care of you. There's a lot of good agencies that provide home care. If you have long-term care insurance, a lot of times those long-term care insurance plans will pay for home care because everybody knows that you do better at home. From there, or before you get there, you also have to keep in mind that home care costs a lot. The average worker for home care runs anywhere from 18 to 25, sometimes up to $30 an hour, depending on what kind of care you need. So you want to make sure that you have those resources. But if you think of an average of $20 an hour and you need 40 hours, 24-hour care, you're talking $20,000 a month. A lot of people can't afford that. From there, from being at home, you're looking at assisted living. So maybe you can't stay at home, so assisted living is your next option. I don't want you to count assisted living out. My mother-in-law had a blast on assisted living, and it was the best thing she could have done. Had a ton of fun. So don't count it out. If you start to decline more and need long-term care services, we're going to help you find the best place for that as well. So, but you have to think about, what are those costs? Your average assisted living runs anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500. Some are a little more depending on how much care you need. Your long-term care runs anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 or more a month. And it also depends on where you are, whether you're here in Texas, or maybe you're in the East Coast or West Coast, because it's a lot higher in other states. So if your kids live somewhere else, the cost of care can be a whole lot more. How do I pay for care? It's really important for you to know that, because do you have enough money to pay for care? If you have long-term care and you need to pay for care, is there going to be money for that spouse at home? That's important as well. So you want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help you figure out how that's going to be taken care of if it occurs, because you always want to plan for contingencies. It's the best thing you can do. So if you have a lot of money that's potentially going to come out, where is it going to come from? And is that spouse at home going to be okay if you're paying out large sums of money each month? So you're watching this presentation, you're probably thinking, man, what should I do today? Take a deep breath. So, because part of what we do is to kind of walk you through this process. The very first thing, kind of going to go back a little bit, the very first thing you want to do is to get a good and accurate diagnosis. From there, you see your elder law attorney. We want to make sure that your documents work, that you have all the things you need. So start gathering those financial documents. Start gathering, statements and insurance policies and all those things that you may need, that someone needs to know where they are. So in our office, our goal is to help you get organized, because we want to know where your money's at, what type of money you have, because it's going to be important in deciding what are we spending for your care and where's the money going to come from. So it's very important that you have all that together. So then the question becomes, what if we didn't plan ahead and care is needed? It could happen. And that's just what we call crisis planning. And I tell every client, in crisis planning, you don't have a lot of options. Usually you have one. And when it comes to planning, we like for you to have more than one, but in a crisis, it's not going to occur. A lot of times when we talk about crisis is somebody has a stroke, they're in the hospital, or a heart attack or something, in a car accident. We've had clients as young as 38, 39 in car accidents that have become disabled and needed long-term care. It's very important for you to see that elder law attorney, figure out what the kind of care the person's going to need and what the cost is going to be. You want to know that, do you have all those documents in place? You want to make sure that you don't have to go through guardianship because they didn't plan ahead. So there's no legal documents. So very expensive process. So sitting down, making sure that you've met with the elder law attorney, you've got a good diagnosis, you know what kind of care is going to be needed, so you can put that plan in place. And so getting organized, hugely important as well. So I hope that maybe some of this hit home, or maybe none of it hit home. If it doesn't apply, you want to make sure that if it hit home with you, do something. This is an opportunity for you to say, it's time for me to do something. I need to plan ahead, because we want you to plan ahead. We want to make sure that all the things that you have in place are going to work when you need it. And so it's kind of like homeowners insurance. You buy it and hope that you never have to call your agent. And so, because if you do, that means something bad happened to your house. You think about legal planning and think about long-term planning the same way. Plan for those contingencies and hope like heck you never have to use them. And just so you know, you're not alone. There are tons of support groups out there. The Alzheimer's organization has lots of programs, lots of information. The Gathering Place is fantastic. It's another nonprofit that gives you a chance to get some information, get some respite care so that someone else is taking care of your loved one while you're getting some information. It's just taking a short break. They have support groups as well. This is just a short list of what's out there. There's lots of stuff, and we can point you in the right direction. Because we're really worried about making sure that you get lots of good information. We have a ton of free resources. We started off with our You're Not Alone series of living with Alzheimer's disease. From there, we went to living as an Alzheimer's caregiver. And then lastly, we just came out with our living with dementia. So we have a guide to Alzheimer's care. So there's lots of things of information of what you need to do. We have our caring and communicating guide. Our podcast, or my podcast of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Take an opportunity to listen to some of those, even subscribe. Our podcasts are totally geared for information for seniors and those that are hitting that second half of life, of the things that you may need. And for you younger kids out there, it may be your parents or your grandparents. There's a lot of good information out there, and we want you to have it. Really important to make sure that even we have some good resources on our YouTube channel. Just when you thought I was done, nope. We have a dementia action plan, a checklist to follow if there's a diagnosis. How awesome is that, to have that checklist, to know that these are the kind of things that we need to put in place. We have a huge virtual workshop library, so all different kinds of information and free guides and checklists on our website. So just in case you hit us first, when you're searching, we want to make sure there's information there for you and all the good resources that we can help you find and help steer your way. And because our practice has kind of evolved and we're seeing a whole lot more of our clients coming in with that diagnosis, we're now working towards a very specific dementia care strategy session. So when you come in, it's not just the legal that we're going to be concerned about. It's going to be your health. It's going to be placement. It's going to be lots of other things that all encompass all the things we've talked about. So you're going to get kind of a one-stop shop, the ability to get information on everything you could possibly need in one place when it comes to long-term care. We're very passionate about making sure that you have the best quality of life you could ask for. So we're doing everything we can to help that. So how this works, just so you know, is that you'll come in for an informational strategy session. You can do it by Zoom. A lot of people are coming in person. I like the in-person. I really like being able to sit on the table next to someone and really get to know them. I just think the personal approach is so much better. And during this meeting, we're going to talk about your estate planning documents and make sure they're in good order. We're going to help you develop a plan for that second half of life. The first half, I don't know about you guys, the first half went really fast. So we want to make sure that you're very prepared for the second half. And we'll answer all the questions we have about your unique situation, because no two people have the same issues at all. At the end of our time together, you're going to know what documents you need, what your options for Alzheimer's or dementia care is, and you're going to have that peace of mind knowing that your loved one will be ready for the challenges of tomorrow, because isn't that what we're all looking for? And after our meeting, we're going to develop a written plan with recommendations. We're going to work with you to implement the plan. And we're going to prepare any legal documents that you need. And most importantly, we're going to walk you through this process from start to finish, because we're all about making sure that we do everything that we can to get that plan in place, make sure that plan is implemented, and make sure that you've done everything you can to make sure that plan works when you need it, always. Because if you've got a plan that isn't implemented well, it's not going to work. Just in case you wanted to visit, and we always give you an opportunity when we do any webinar to call our office, or you can go online and actually schedule yourself if it's convenient for you. You can see all the links below. And also because we find that estate planning is something that people do that when they need to, or an emergency. For you procrastinators out there, we always tell you that if you come in, go on schedule, get it done, and you schedule by November 30th, we'll give you a discount on trust planning, because we want to do everything we can to incentivize you to get something done. And so most definitely. And I want to thank you so much for having me today and having an opportunity to give you this information. We want to make sure that you're taken care of, whether it's us or another good elder law firm. We want to make sure that you're getting information. And you came to this conference, so we're hoping this information helps as well. And if there's anything that we could ever do for you in the future, please take that opportunity to let us know. And I definitely want to thank you for, again, for coming today, and hope that, that we'll be able to see you in the future. Thanks. Bye-bye.